The laughter never started loud. It began as a tick in the corner of the break room. Something small and nervous, like a fluorescent bulb warming up, then grew into a bright, crackling hum that crowded the air above the chipped countertops and overfull trash bin. Aisha kept her eyes on the sink. She rinsed her plastic food container until the water ran clear. Her hands moved the way they always did. Precise, steady, unhurried. The lid clicked into place. The laughter brightened. "Is that stew again?" Dara's voice came sing-songy from behind her, pitched just enough to carry into the hall. "Girl, at some point even the stew gets tired of being the same." "Leave her," said Femi, shrugging into a blazer 2 sizes too tight and 2 shades too pleased. "Consistency is a virtue. Our Aisha is nothing if not consistent." He winked at the others, and something hot and heavy pushed against Aisha's throat. She lowered her container, wiped the sink, and said nothing. The rag came away with a streak of rust from the old tap. She turned it over and kept wiping until the sink was as new as old ever gets. It was Thursday. Thursdays at Bay and Pine Logistics were a performance. Everyone slightly sharper, everyone watching everyone else. The regional manager, Ms. Cole, liked to do her rounds on Thursdays. She would tap a desk, ask a cheerful question, and beam when anyone used the word initiative. Aisha had learned to tidy her desk early, line up her pens, and keep her spreadsheets open like a step-by-step confession. "I am working. Look, I am working." She stepped into the corridor with her lunch tucked close. A new poster hung crisp as a starched shirt on the bulletin board. "Team Spirit Friday. Dress your best. Win a prize." She paused. There was a scalloped gold border around the words and, beneath, a cartoon ribbon labeled Nigerian Naira 50,000, like a badge of virtue. The ink still smelled warm. "Careful," Dara said, appearing at her shoulder, a little breathless from walking so quickly in heels. "They say glitter is contagious. You might take some home and your landlord will think you're fancy." Aisha smiled, small and real, the way she did when a person told a joke that made them feel clever. "They would be surprised," she said and took a step away. Dara wasn't cruel exactly. She was bored. Femi was different. Mockery was the game he liked to win even when nobody was playing. He leaned against Aisha's desk before she could sit, one hand splayed on her spreadsheet as if he were claiming territory. "So, did you get the memo?" he asked. "Tomorrow is a big day. Dress your best. You must have a gown hidden somewhere. Or at least a new scarf." "I have what I need," Aisha said, keeping her voice light. She set down her lunch, eased her chair out an inch, then another. Femi did not move. He wasn't tall, but he knew how to look like he took up space. "You always do," he said. "You always do." There was the laugh again, smaller this time, shared between people who wanted to be on the inside of something. In the cubicle beyond Femi's shoulder, Liza lifted her head, saw the arrangement, and folded herself back into her screen. Aisha traced the edge of her desk with one fingertip and waited. She did not move him. She did not demand. She waited him out. Something in her stillness reminded him that he had work to pretend to do. He pushed off the desk and clucked his tongue. I cannot wait to see Miss Cole's face tomorrow," he said, adjusting his tie until the knot sat like a fist at his throat. "Some of us will be amazing." When he left, the space warmed by a degree. Aisha slid into her chair. She breathed. Her monitor washed her face in the pale light of cells and formulas. She double-checked a column, let the familiar pattern pull her forward. Vendor code, shipment date, cost center, reconciled amount. Numbers did not lie about her. Numbers did not laugh. By 11, the office smelled of warm printer ink, hand cream, and impatience. Miss Cole appeared at the far end of the row like a magician stepping into her own reveal. She had a way of walking that made her heels sound helpful. People straightened. Someone cracked a small joke about the weather. She nodded at it like it was a good performance. "Morning, team," she sang, and the word team did a soft, artificial flourish. "Tomorrow's our spirit day. I hope you're ready to stun." I was born ready, Femi said, just loud enough. He loosened his jacket so the pocket square could breathe. Liza smiled because smiling is what you do when a person is performing confidence. Dara adjusted her camera on her monitor so that the reflection caught her cheek at a forgiving angle. Ms. Cole reached Aisha's desk with her best management smile. Aisha, you're on reconciliation for Q2. Yes. Yes, Aisha said. Almost done. I'll send by 2. You're a star. Ms. Cole's gaze flicked down, cool and fast. The hem of Aisha's skirt was neat but simple. Her blouse ironed but old, her shoes polished above thin soles. And tomorrow, Ms. Cole added, brightening in a way that asked to be praised for its brightness. Don't be shy to play along. It's good for morale. I will be here, Aisha said. Wonderful. The smile slid past, found new faces to illuminate. Aisha watched it travel the way you watch a light move along a wall. Interested but not moved. She returned to the comfort of the grid. It was not that she didn't understand what they saw when they looked at her. She saw it too. The blouse that had been mended a careful 3 times. The plain headscarf tied in a knot that favored function over style. The lunch from home. The habit of leaving exactly at 5 because the bus ran at 5:12. And if you missed that, the 5:40 came packed so tight your ribs learned a new kind of patience. Her phone buzzed. A message flashed on the screen with a name that warmed the syllables in her mouth even when she didn't say them. You good? Aisha allowed herself a longer smile. She typed back, I'm fine. You? Perfect, came the reply. Big meeting, then I'll call. Dinner plan? She hovered, caught between writing what she wanted and what the day demanded. Something easy, she typed. Then, after a breath, she added, your favorite stew. She set the phone face down, a small ritual of focus. It didn't matter if she ate the stew twice in a week. It mattered that it was theirs. A scent, a spice, a shared pot scraped with 2 spoons. These things built a life like mortar. By noon the jokes had sprouted legs. We should take a collection, Dara said, leaning into Liza's cubicle with a giggle. For tomorrow. By Aisha something shiny so Ms. Cole doesn't think we are neglecting our sister. Better to buy her a mirror, Femi said. So she can see she is a queen already. The laughter came on cue. Aisha peeled back the lid of her container and let the steam fog her glasses. A gentle curtain between her and the room. She ate slowly, not because she wanted the food to last, the food always lasted, but because if she hurried, they would see she had hurried away. And if she lingered, they would see she had lingered in defeat. She found the middle, the narrow, dignified path of eating at a human pace. It wasn't always like this. The teasing had started as the kind that offices told themselves were harmless. A comment about a skirt that could use a little something. A suggestion that, for team photos, she try a pop of color. A raised eyebrow at the bus schedule posted at the edge of her monitor. But jokes grow where there is applause. And if nobody claps, people learn to clap with their eyes. A small mercy arrived in the afternoon. A mess. A shipment detail refused to reconcile and a vendor code returned an error that rippled across 3 cost centers like a stone thrown into a calm bowl of water. Aisha leaned into the trouble. She emailed 1 contact, then another. She called a third and asked 2 questions that sliced the problem clean. She corrected a date, resorted a column, reran the logic, and watched as the cells flowed into place like tiles sliding home. When it worked, she let herself close her eyes for a heartbeat. Not a smile. A quiet inward nod toward competence. The kind you give yourself when nobody else is watching. Fixed. Miss Cole appeared at her shoulder again, as if conjured by the scent of progress. Yes, Aisha said. Vendor miskeyed the month. It's August, not July. Good, Miss Cole said, and the word good was already walking away by the time it left her mouth. Send me the summary. At 4, Bay and Pine remembered tomorrow's spectacle. An email chimed into every inbox with the subject line. Final reminder, Team Spirit Friday. The body of the message glittered with clip art confetti. There were examples. Sharp suits, festive dresses, tasteful traditional attire. There was a line about company values of excellence and pride. There was a winking emoji that made Aisha think of a door that did not close all the way. Femi stood and pretended to stretch so that everyone could admire the line of his trousers. "Tomorrow you will not recognize me," he announced. "I hardly recognize you now," Dara said, and they both laughed like people rehearsing a play. Aisha closed the email and looked at her to-do list. 2 items left. Send reconciliation summary. Book carrier pickups for Monday. She did the first with her usual precision. The second she did with a little more care than strictly necessary. She confirmed driver names twice. She double-checked the addresses. It was work, but it was also a way to stay sitting while the office rehearsed its anticipation. Her phone buzzed again. "Meeting done. Tell me you're not too tired to be adored." The line made a smile rise so fast she had to bow her head to hide it. "Never too tired," she wrote. She added a small heart, then deleted it, then added it back. She pressed send. "Closing early, Aisha?" Femi asked as she slid her laptop into her bag at 5 on the dot. "Or you will stay to plan your costume?" She looked up at him, and a single thought rose like a coin catching light. "It is not my job to teach you how to be kind." The thought did not sound bitter in her head. It sounded like a boundary made of stone and patience. "I will be here at 9, she said. "Have a good evening." He grinned and predictably mocked her polite tone, then called after her down the aisle, "Don't forget, prize money." As if money were the only reason to be seen. Outside, Lagos was a familiar, generous roar. Hawkers lifting their voices, bus conductors slapping metal, radio jingles escaping open windows and mixing into a song no composer would claim but everyone knew. Aisha's shoulders fell into the city's rhythm. The bus came, and she climbed in with the practiced grace of a woman who had learned to make herself a little smaller without making herself less. At home, she peeled off the workday and tied on the apron her aunt had given her the year she moved into this small, bright kitchen. She washed peppers, onions, tomatoes, and let the oil bloom with garlic. She hummed nothing in particular, and when the key turned in the front door, she did not run. She raised her head the way a person does when the answer to a long question steps into the room. He filled the doorway like the present tense. Tall, yes. Handsome, yes. But mostly there was the gentleness he carried like a second spine. He dropped his bag. He had stopped wearing watches years ago, but time seemed to tilt when he smiled at her. "Smells like I am forgiven for everything I have not yet done wrong," he said, then leaned to kiss the place where her temple met her hairline. "You're late," she said, but softly, already smiling. He slid onto the stool by the kitchen island and stole a piece of steamed yam from the plate cooling by the window. "I was making a scene somewhere else," he said. "Tomorrow I may have to make one here." She turned, wooden spoon in hand. It left a little comet of red on the air between them. "A scene, He watched her, measuring. There was a spark behind his eyes that meant he was thinking 3 moves ahead. "Your office," he said. "Team spirit. Dress your best." Morale is the word they use when they want you to wear joy on top of duty. She laughed. A small burst. "You're quoting me." "Plagiarism is a love language," he said. "Will you dress your best?" She looked at her hands. They were capable hands. They were not couture. "I will be there," she said. "That is what I can promise." He was quiet long enough that the stew began to thicken and the silence did too. Then he said, "You know I am proud of you." "Yes," she said, because she did know. He did not say things to decorate the air. He said things to live inside them. "And you know," he added lightly, so lightly it almost drifted away, "that there are times when a person must be seen, not because they have changed, but because people have refused to see what is already there." She stirred. The pot released a breath. "And you think tomorrow is one of those times?" she asked. "I think," he said, testing the word like a key. "Tomorrow is as good a day as any for eyes to learn their work." She frowned, amused and wary. "You are being cryptic." "Only a little," he said. "Bring your patience. Bring your steadiness. Those are clothes that always fit." They ate by the window because the evening had decided to be kind and let a breeze through. They did not talk about money. They almost never did. Early in their marriage, when people called him lucky or new friends asked what he did and he said it simply, he had told her he did not want to bring the market into their home. Money lived like electricity in the walls, necessary, powerful, invisible unless mishandled. What mattered was the light it allowed them. After dinner he washed dishes while she dried. They did not race. They did not assign points. They moved the way people do who have learned the art of being useful to each other. When the last cup was set down and the counter wiped, he leaned back and watched her for a long moment. "Tomorrow," he said, "I will meet you for lunch." She blinked. "At the office?" "At your desk if they will allow me." He grinned. "I will take a number like at the bank." "You don't even like my office." "I like you in it," he said. "That is enough." She wanted to ask what he was planning. She wanted to ask if he had already arranged things with Miss Cole, or if he had some surprise tucked into the clean lines of his suit. She wanted to say, "They laugh." She wanted to say, "I can handle it." She wanted to say, "I don't need you to fix them." Instead she said, "Come at 12. The stew will have worn off and I will be vulnerable to bribes." He laughed and pulled her in. His heartbeat was a steady drum. It did not change tempo when he was thinking about acquisitions or when his face was on the cover of a magazine. It kept this rhythm because it had long ago been matched to hers. That night, Aisha laid out her clothes as if they were lines in a poem. The skirt that fit cleanly. The blouse with the mended seam that told the truth about care. The headscarf she loved because it didn't shout but it didn't hide either. It was simply itself, the color of good soil after rain. In the dark, with the fan whispering overhead and the city humming beyond the window, she held the thought like a smooth stone. Tomorrow, I will be seen or I will be myself. Both are victories. Morning cracked like an egg and spilled light into the kitchen. She dressed. She left on time. The bus arrived with its usual argument between speed and caution, and she took her usual seat by the window, where the city blurred into a collage of faces and painted signs and fruit pyramids that defied the physics of traffic. At Bay and Pine, the lights seemed brighter. The air conditioners pushed harder. The office had dressed to be looked at. Liza floated in a silk blouse the color of ripe mango. Dara's dress shimmered like a heat mirage. Femi's suit had lapels sharp enough to slice fruit. There were jokes like confetti. There were photos posed with fingers making casual peace signs and smiles calibrated to impress without confessing effort. Aisha slipped into her chair. People looked. They always looked on days like this. Her clothes did not answer the office's question the way the office wanted them to. She did not sparkle. She did not shout. She was a sentence without an exclamation mark, and so they read her twice to find where the emphasis hid. "Ah, our queen," Femi said, sweeping a little bow. "Minimalist. I respect the choice." Dara tilted her head. A sympathetic bird. "You look nice," she said, the way someone says try again. Aisha nodded. "You too." Miss Cole made a tour with real delight. Praise was a currency she enjoyed spending, especially when it bought something she could call culture. "Beautiful," she told Dara. "Sharp," she told Femi. "Lovely," she told Liza. She reached Aisha and found herself with fewer adjectives. Her smile loosened. "Very professional," she said, and clapped her hands to announce. "At lunch we'll do our little fashion parade, just for fun." At 11:50, Aisha's phone buzzed. "I'm downstairs." She rose and smoothed her skirt and heard 3 different laughs somewhere behind her fold into one. She took the stairs instead of the elevator because stairs let you bring yourself down in your own time. At the lobby, the glass doors held the city like a postcard. He stood with his back to the street and his hand in his pocket, talking to the receptionist as if they had been friends for years. When he turned and saw her, the way his face changed would have told any observing stranger everything they needed to know about who he was to her and who she was to him. "Lunchtime conspirator," he said and offered his arm. "Don't make trouble," she murmured, taking it. "They like their days arranged like shelves." "How neat," he said. "We are very good at rearranging shelves." They stepped into the elevator together. Side up. Aisha watched their reflections. Side by side, they looked like what they were. Two people who had chosen each other beyond logic and inventory. There was a catch in her breath she didn't name. The doors slid open onto the floor where laughter had been waiting for its next cue. It got quiet the way an audience gets quiet when the conductor lifts the baton. Femi recovered first. He flicked his cuff and smiled wide enough to show his dental work. "Welcome, sir," he said, the title fitting his tongue like a piece of candy he'd stolen from a bowl. "Visiting our humble island?" Her husband's eyes took in the room with affectionate curiosity, as if it were a museum of human attempts. He nodded to Miss Cole. He nodded to Liza. He nodded to the poster with its scalloped gold border and the promise of a cash prize taped slightly crooked on the wall. Then he did the simplest thing. He crossed the room and took Aisha's hand in both of his like it was the most expensive thing he had ever owned. He did not look at the others when he spoke. He looked at her. "Mrs. Aisha," he said, just loud enough for everyone to hear, "shall we eat?" She breathed, and something inside the room shifted, like a picture straightening on its hook. "Of course," she said. Behind them, someone whispered. A chair scraped. Miss Cole stepped forward, professional smile installed, and said, "And you are?" He turned with the warmth he used when he was about to gently refuse something and make the refusal feel like generosity. "Kahind," he said, "Aisha's husband." "Oh," Miss Cole brightened. "Lovely to meet you. I'm Cole, regional manager." Them of their own accord. "Fun is very important," he said. "May I borrow my wife for lunch? We have an appointment with Jollof and the truth about our day." "You'll be back for the judging?" Femi interjected. "You have a good eye, I can tell." Kahind looked at him, then at Aisha, then back at him as if calculating how much of the future to deliver in the present. He squeezed Aisha's hand once. "We will be back," he said. "I suspect I have a few things to say to everyone." And just like that, another laugh caught in a throat and did not come out. The room held its breath with its best smile on. The dance had changed tempo, and no one knew the steps yet. No one except the poor, humble lady in her neat blouse and the man who loved her more than prizes, more than performances, more than the sound of his own name. They walked toward the break room together, and the corridor felt wider than it had that morning. In 3 steps, the office was already telling itself a new story without realizing it. In 3 more, the old one would be over. The break room smelled faintly of reheated rice and last night's beans. But it held a hush as though the walls themselves sensed something different. Aisha set her container down, ready to share a quiet meal with Kahind, but her husband's eyes were already searching the room, taking in every detail, the crooked blinds, the stack of old memos pinned half-heartedly to the corkboard, the nervous faces peeking from behind cubicles. "Sit," he said warmly, pulling a chair for her. "Today you rest while I serve." It was an ordinary gesture, but done here, in a space where she was usually diminished, it felt like a declaration. He opened her lunch container, ladled stew onto a plate, and set it before her with the care of a banquet. She flushed. Around them, whispers swirled. "Who does that in this place?" Dara muttered, not quietly enough. Kahind smiled as if he had heard but chose to elevate the moment instead. He leaned close to Aisha. "You've carried more weight than they know. Let me carry the tray today." And then, deliberately, he lifted his voice. Not loud, but sure, the kind of tone that makes a room straighten without knowing why. "You all work hard," he began, turning to the handful of colleagues who had drifted in under the pretense of heating food. "This company survives on your diligence. But often, the quietest hands do the most work. They reconcile the books, smooth the errors, close the loops no one else sees. That is real leadership." The air thickened. Even the microwave beep seemed hesitant. Aisha lowered her eyes, her heart beating fast. Femi laughed nervously. "Sir, that is true. We all try our best. But what line of work are you in, if I may ask?" Kahind's pause was deliberate, a moment of weight placed carefully on the scale. "Investments. I manage a portfolio of companies. Perhaps you know one, Westbridge Holdings." The name hung in the air like a stone dropped in water. People blinked. Miss Cole, who had slipped in quietly, stiffened as recognition flickered across her face. Westbridge, she began, voice suddenly careful. You mean the firm that acquired Bay and Pine's parent group last quarter? The same, Kahine said easily, folding his hands. I was part of that deal. In fact, I'm reviewing regional operations now. This office, included. A ripple ran through the room. Femi's grin faltered, then froze. Dara's spoon clinked against her bowl. Liza sat straighter, eyes darting to Aisha with something close to awe. The dance had shifted. Context, mockery, judgment had collided with conflict. Realization. Ms. Cole recovered first. She smoothed her blouse, plastered on her managerial smile. Well, this is quite the surprise. We're honored, sir. Of course, our team takes pride in its professionalism. Kahine's gaze slid past her, resting again on Aisha. Professionalism is not in clothes or jokes. It's in integrity, dignity, consistency, qualities my wife has shown, even when unrecognized. It was gentle, but the rebuke landed like a hammer wrapped in velvet. Faces flushed. Nobody dared laugh now. Aisha shifted, uncomfortable with the spotlight. Kahine, she whispered. That's enough. But he shook his head softly. No, love. They must see. You've carried yourself with grace in a place that tried to make you small. Today, I want them to understand who you already are. His words were not about money. They were about lens, the unique angle that reframed the entire story. Not rags to riches, but respect forgotten to respect restored. Ms. Cole cleared her throat. Well, perhaps we could discuss ways of improving morale. As regional manager, I'd be happy to. Indeed, Kahine interrupted, kind but firm, and I will be making recommendations. One of them will be to ensure people like Aisha, steady, capable, respectful, are valued properly. Titles and parades mean little without dignity. Silence thickened again. Aisha felt heat on her skin, but it wasn't shame. It was the rare heat of being seen, truly seen, in a place that had worked hard to erase her. Then Kahine stood. I don't wish to take more of your time. Please eat. Work well. But remember this. Wealth is not measured in fabric or flash. It is measured in how you treat people when you think no one important is watching. He offered his hand to Aisha. She rose, steady despite the tremor in her chest. They walked out together, leaving behind a room that had suddenly grown too small for the people inside it. In the corridor, Aisha exhaled. You didn't have to do that. I did, Kahine replied gently. Not for me, for you. They needed to know that the woman they mocked carries more strength than they can imagine. And now, when they look at you, they will not see poor and humble. They will see the dignity that was always yours. Her throat tightened. She wanted to argue, but she couldn't. For once, silence felt like agreement. Back in the office, whispers swirled like dry leaves. Femi avoided her eyes. Dara busied herself at her desk, suddenly subdued. Miss Cole hovered near her door, pale but smiling too brightly. And when Aisha returned to her desk, the numbers on her screen glowed differently. Not because they had changed, but because she had. The story was not Cinderella's. There was no glass slipper, no fairy godmother. There was only a woman who had always carried herself with quiet strength, and a man who had chosen to amplify that strength at the right moment. And now, everyone else would have to live with the sound of their laughter echoing back at them, turned into silence by truth.